Good morning, it's Meg from SwissWatchExpo. One of the benefits of working here, we have pieces that you can't find anywhere else. They're pieces that have been retired for quite some time. I love them. I'm going to show you two very special Pateks. Stick around. Hi, thanks for tuning in again. We always love showing you these special watches that we have in the store. We just get so tickled when we get to show you something very unique. And you know, people that have known me for a long time, that have been very loyal to me throughout my career, have asked me how I ended up at SwissWatchExpo, why I ended up at SwissWatchExpo. Of course, you guys already know our master watchmakers and the expertise that they bring to our watches. They are authenticated, they're serviced. It just makes my job super easy. But one of the other reasons is we get to share and sell and provide for you guys watches that you can't find anywhere else. They're phenomenal timepieces, but they've been retired. I have two very special Patek Philippe's this morning that I'm going to show you. It's the Patek Philippe Nautilus 3800. So that's one that hasn't been around for quite some time. We've got two of them. I'm going to talk to you about both of them. What I love about, of course, the Nautilus, it was a huge, in the 70s when the Nautilus was introduced, a huge leap from Patek Philippe, from their traditional watches, what they typically provided. It was intended to be a sports model. It was provided in steel, which was kind of new and almost revolutionary in the industry, as well as gold. So it was a big 42 millimeter watch, which at the time was huge. It was the 3700 when it was first introduced. And it was met with, come see, come saw, kind of a little bit of, some people loved it, some people not so much. So nonetheless, it's become just an iconic watch. And occasionally we get a few Nautiluses that you don't see very often. So today, the Nautilus 3800. These were actually introduced initially in the early 80s. The first time they were introduced in 81, but they weren't available until 82. I actually have one in the all gold that I'm going to pick up and show you in just a minute. That's an 84. So what's so interesting about the Nautilus 3800 is you'll notice it's not an oversized watch in any means. They actually took what was the 3700 42 millimeter and they really refined it. They wanted to reach out to more of across the market. When it was first introduced, people were saying, oh, that's a woman's watch. But back then, it was much bigger than women would have worn. So in fact, it is intended to be a man's watch. You guys know I'd wear it in a minute, but it's a man's watch. And it's 37.5 millimeters. But I do want to show you and point out that in fact, even though it's 37.5, it wears even a bit smaller than that, because in this particular variation of watches, Patek Philippe has measured that 37.5 millimeters across the ears from side to side. So the full width is 37.5 millimeter. Of course, the bezel and the dial are slightly smaller, but it's still beautiful. So the Nautilus 3800, this particular one is a 1984 timepiece. What I'm excited about both of these, you guys are always asking us for box and papers. Yes, we have them, box and papers on both of these. So Nautilus 3800, this one is an all yellow gold. It's actually, if you look back through the history of the 3800s, more unusual, and it was not a thing at the time, to create this gold dial, this monotone look of the gold bracelet and dial all the way across. So the fact that we have one of the gold dials is even more rare than the fact that we have the 3800 to start with. So a couple of things I want to point out that make this piece, the more I dug into it, the more I looked at it, just the more excited I got about it. A couple really tiny things on this that we're going to point out. The date wheel. This date wheel, they made the date wheel itself is black with the white number indicators on it. So, and the other ones were white with black number indicators. So this one is the black date wheel. There are much, much fewer of these, many fewer of these than there were of the white ones. So the fact that we have the all gold bracelet and case, of course, gold dial, black date wheel, the more I look at it, the more special it becomes. So I love it. It's stunning. It's a great timepiece. This is the all gold one. The other thing in the early 80s, the all gold one, or all of their Nautilus 3800s, you can see the stamped clasp on it. So there's different kind of generations, how they've changed. They were still a 3800, but you'll notice when I pick up the next one and compare them. So this is a deployant clasp, stamped. It's white gold, even though the rest of the watch is yellow gold, but stamped deployant clasp on it. So single clasp, thinner metal, certain piece. So this one, of course, beautiful. Of course, I hope you've noticed how thin it is as well. So when you have it on, it's elegant, it's sleek, it's really, really beautiful. So 3800 from 1984. And look at, I can't not mention its beautiful box. Very different from the big chunky wood Patek Philippe boxes you'd notice. This one, wonderful case, oval shaped, gold accent on the trim, beautiful red cushion inside. I'm so tickled about it. So that's the gold one. So a few years later, in the 90s, this is still the Nautilus 3800. Same timepiece. It's the same size. This one is in stainless steel. So the stainless steel models, the ones that were most frequently produced, was the blue rib dial. And both of these have that iconic Nautilus rib dial, the blue rib dial. This one is in white. So again, just like the gold dial with the black date wheel, not as many of those produced. There weren't as many white dials. So the fact now we have a stainless steel white dial, and of course this one does have the white date wheel on it. So you can notice and really compare the difference in the two and see what we're talking about there. So white dial, white date wheel, all stainless steel. Of course, both of these are automatics. What I love about them is just how thin they are. They're so easy to wear. And then again, this was one of the later productions. So there were a couple generations in the clasp. This one has that beautiful butterfly clasp. So it opens on both sides. A little bit of difference there in the clasp. Gorgeous timepieces. Two very, very special Patek Philippe's today. You guys know, you've heard me say before, one of the other things that I love about our Patek Philippe's, what makes them so exciting, so much fun to share with you. Of course, these two models that just are so hard to find. We don't see them very often. Very, very special. But don't forget, we have a Patek Philippe trained master watchmaker here. Work directly for Patek Philippe in Switzerland. Our Patek Philippe's go across his bench. We know they're authentic. We know they're in perfect working order. Both of these come with box and papers. There's so many other things I'd love to tell you about these watches, but why don't you give us a call here at Swiss Watch Expo in Atlanta. I'll connect with you on FaceTime and we can go through all the details. But while you're looking up our phone number or going on our website at SwissWatchExpo.com and you're looking up these two, take a moment and look at the photographs of the backs of these and the movements in these watches. Because one thing I can't show you on these particulars, but it is in our photograph, they're the same watch. They have two different movements in them. They look quite different. This was one of the originals, and the one in this movement is in this, the gold 3800 was one of the first full in-house Patek Philippe movements created, and you'll see it. And then they, of course, as they perfected their movements and refined their movements, and just this one has a different movement in it. So they look different. It's so fascinating. So many details. I could go on and on and on, but instead of me going on and on, I want you to do me two favors. First off, let me know which one you prefer, the gold or the steel, and then give us a call here at Swiss Watch Expo. We love to connect with you guys on FaceTime. I'm super excited to dig into these watches, answer any questions you may have, and then let me know which one you want to take home. Give us a call.